Hey guys, welcome to Wood Live. My name's Kevin,
I'm John.
and hey, we're going to try something new here. This is not our initial run. John did one 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, kind of testing the waters on this. So this is the first one with the two of us. So hold on.
Yeah, the first one was just to see if it even worked.
Yeah.
Apparently it did.
So really, the whole thing is you may already know this, but the key of this show to be successful is ask as many questions as you can. We'll try to get to as many as we can. And a couple housekeeping things. Hit subscribe if you like it. And if you don't, go ahead and hit subscribe anyway. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Floyd's Bait and Tackle and Anamosa. Shout out to you, Floyd. If you want fresh bait, Floyd's got it.
Floyd is the place to go.
Yeah. So just going to get this thing going. As I mentioned, John had a show that he did a few weeks back, and we had some questions we didn't get to. And this is something we want to do. If we can't get to every question, and some of these questions may require some thought that requires us to think outside of the 5 seconds we get when these are coming through. We had a reader, or well, I'm not sure he's a reader or not, but someone on Facebook actually asked a question about, and he asked it more than once. So he was pretty excited about this, but I hope you're watching out there, because John actually is going to show us this process. But someone asked, how can I cut a 13-degree cut without power tools? So this kind of brought up some discussion for us about 13 degrees. Is that 13 degrees from on the table saw, 13 degrees from 90, 13 degrees from 0? So that's always one of those things I think is kind of confusing.
Sure.
So one of the things that we do in the shop, and then in the magazine may be a little different, because obviously when you're calling out angles, we may not be calling out the angle that you're setting your saw to. It may be the complementary angle. So, you have to kind of think about that when you guys are looking at those. And if we call out an angle, this angle is this, maybe it's the complementary angle. Just keep that in mind depending on what you're cutting it with, whether your table saw or maybe it's your miter saw.
Yeah, I think you have a good point there, because a lot of people get in trouble on when we have instructions and we say set it at this on your table saw, and then they call and say your angles are all wrong, and you ask, well, what are you cutting it with? Well, miter saw. Okay. There's your problem.
So that helps us, kind of help
figure out. Yeah.
But it's one of those things. It can be tricky. It's not that hard. I think it's you getting to know what you're using to do these angles or cut this angle. So one of the tools that we both use is this kind of a protractor type of square. This is made by General, and very inexpensive tool, but very very handy and well made. These things you can pick up at probably Ace Hardware, or maybe a True Value, or maybe even you might have to order those online. And I don't know if Woodcraft or Rockler or those guys might carry this.
I've seen them in some of the big box stores. So,
but these are a handy little deal, because you can kind of use this to kind of mark out angles that you may not be able to do. Obviously, your combination square is going to be a 90-45, unless you have a high-end Starrett compass.
Yeah, with the protractor
head, which I used to have.
I heard there used to be one around.
Yeah. Don't have one now.
Bandits.
I tell you.
In the middle of the night.
Yeah, it's terrible. So, yeah, hey, so anyway, John got to thinking about this, and we're going to kind of go through maybe a little bit of how we would do this. And we were kind of speculating that maybe this guy was doing this on like some.
Because didn't he say how to do 13 degrees on a guitar neck?
Maybe. But that's the only thing we could think of, is how you're cutting that steep of an angle, unless you're doing a really elongated scarf joint, which we could talk about too.
Well, it's a good point, like you said, because are we 13 degrees off 90? Because here we are set on 90, and if I set this to 13 degrees here, are we talking 13 degrees off 90, or are we talking 13 degrees off 180, which is a lot steeper angle? So in this instance, this is graduated, it says 180 and 0, so I'm starting at 0. And I'm just going to go up to 13. So there would be my 13 degrees right there.
I'm gonna. You keep talking. I'm gonna kind of talk too. You talk amongst yourself.
Talk amongst
I just
yourselves.
wanted to respond to this one. David Dean said, how do we interact live? Well, David, you're interacting live right now. So if you got questions, ask them. I'm going to, you keep going. Keep going.
Do you have a square, Andy?
I do.
Okay. Like a square?
Well, I know how you like to poke fun at my tools, but yes, this is
All right.
This is in good shape.
So if I wanted to mark this, I have it set on 13 degrees. Mark my one side, and then what I usually do is I extend my lines around the side and the end. So I'd use a square at this point to extend that line, and we'll extend this line. And at this point, I would have to swing this back to the other side, back to the other 13. So I'm really doing two things here. By extending these lines around, I'm kind of double checking myself to see, well, first of all, I got to get it set right, to see how close I am to being on.
I'm going to answer.
Pretty good.
I'm going to answer a couple of these questions before they scroll off the screen.
Kind of a housekeeping?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, the tank is made out of wood, and actually this is in the next coming issue, 239. Some of you may already have this, the 239 issue, which is in the mail. I don't know if it's on newsstands completely now, but it is new. It is a model after an M1A1 Abrams. This is part of our new series that we're doing, which is kind of the military grade, I think we're calling it. This is kind of following up the end of our construction grade. And this tank is scaled to actually fit into the back of the C-130, or as I like to do, the mashup AC-130. So for all you guys out there, I know that those two things don't exist as one, but we wanted our C-130 to have guns on it, but I also wanted the tank to be able to go in the back. So it'll actually fit in the back of an AC-130. So yes, that's coming out in the next issue. Keep going.
Did you ever get the props fixed on that AC-130?
No, the props fixed.
Yeah, I mean, you were having troubles getting it airborne or something?
Yeah. It's definitely not going to be airborne.
So anyway, we have this marked out. So this is what I think the question is: how do you cut that? So I just wanted to start out first and just show. First, you have to mark it out accurately before you can cut it. This is my example in front of you folks, and this is what I drew out. What I think is happening on this guitar neck. So on this, I've marked out 13 degrees parallel. We're going to remove this piece of wood, and in theory on a guitar neck, you would cut out this and then this wedge right here. So I'll start right here, see how this goes, and then we'll see if they want to see more of this or if I can go home.
I'm gonna answer a question from Brian Hackett. It says, just finished some jewelry boxes with less than perfect miter corners. What's the best method for mitered corners on a carcass? So I'm assuming you're talking about like if you're talking about a large case for a piece of furniture. I don't know how you cut the miters on your boxes, but I'll say I use my table saw for this type of work, and I know that I've got the scale on my tilt set appropriately, and I do make some test cuts. But I think the table saw is a very good place to make those cuts, because you've got a large fence to bear against, and you can obviously, if you're doing plywood carcass, you can put in a nice plywood blade that you're going to get a nice clean cut. Obviously, this is something you'd probably want to make some test cuts with beforehand, but that's how I would do it. Don't just assume that the scale on your table saw is set at 45. Always check this, and always make sure that your fence is true, meaning that it's perpendicular, so you've set it up properly where the blade is parallel to the fence. That's how I'd do it. Back to your cut.
Back to me?
Back to that cut.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have two back saws here, so I just want to start out showing with back saws. The nice thing about a back saw is you have a spine that helps keep the blade from wobbling around. So as far as getting started sawing, sawing joinery, these are a really nice way to go. This one looks a lot bigger, but in actuality it's easier to steer because as a taller saw, it lets you know with more certainty if you're starting to get out of vertical. The problem I see with smaller saws a lot of times is you'll start cutting, and because this isn't as tall, you have a hard time gauging what you're doing. So what I'm...
And when you're older and your eyes are harder, or it's harder to see stuff, that those bigger saws are easy to see too.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to get this started. So all I've done is gotten this started in this groove. You'll notice I'm not in line with this cut. But now that I've gotten it started, now I can tilt my saw to align with that cut. So standing on this side, I can see this line, I can see this line, I can't see the back side. So I'm not going to worry about the back side. What I'm going to do is actually saw down this face. Get back in there. So I've gone down this line. I've almost gone to this corner. And now what I need to do is remove wood on the back. So I'm going to turn this around. And basically for right now, just keep doing the same process. I'm not going to worry about what I can't see. I'm going to saw what I can see. The other benefit to cutting this in this method is you're going kind of uphill on the grain of the wood, so the saw doesn't catch as much. And now I'm to the point where I'm past this corner, but I already have a saw curve started on that side. So now I can actually use that to my benefit. That will help guide the saw in the cut. And you can see we're getting down to the point that kind of is the problem with a back saw, is you only can go so deep before the spine on it or the back of it backs out or bottoms out and you can't cut anymore. So one way to get around this if you have a short saw at this point would be to, yeah, I'll trade you sides, Craig. Would be to actually use this saw curve you can see, I don't know if you can see that little spot right there. I got a little bit over, so I'm actually using this opportunity too to straighten this cut out. Let's go from the other side now. And of course, I'm getting a little bit of pinching here, so I'm going to just move this up in the vise a little bit. Actually, I'm going to switch this out now. So, the bigger one, this has bigger teeth, so it will cut a little bit faster. And because it's longer, I can get a little longer stroke.
Eric West just chimed in and wants to know what you're making.
That's a good question. So in theory, this would be, and I don't know who the gentleman was that asked the question, but this would be a 13-degree angle on a guitar neck. Why do you want to make a guitar? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those things where, you know, not everybody is going to be making this cut. I think the purpose we wanted to do this, one is we needed a material to start off the show with, but the second thing is that, you know, talking about angles, how do you make an angle on something of this steep of nature on a power tool or a hand tool? I mean, you could do this on a bandsaw. You know, and maybe you're not doing this for a guitar handle, but maybe this would be a great thing to do for making a board longer, as in like a scarf joint, where if you make this angle super steep, instead of joining in grain to in grain, now you're actually joining more face grain to face grain, so that you actually have a stronger joint. So while he's working out over there, I wanted to answer another question too here. I don't know if it's scrolled off yet, but somebody asked about how do you deal with burnout in woodworking, and I've been through this phase a lot. You know, sometimes on a weekly basis, but you know, because this is what we do all day, every day, and then some of us go home and do it at night and weekends too. My house doesn't have trim, and I've lived there 11 years. So, you know, I mean,
can't get your wife's list done?
No. But she said she's putting up tile. So we're on to something here. You know what I'm saying?
You know how my wife does it? She gets going on it and then knows I won't let her do it.
Yeah.
So
I
then
leave.
You leave?
Yeah. So burnout, you know, I don't think I can answer that question, but I wanted to say that everybody goes through that. Don't give up. I mean, one of the things that I will do is if I'm burnt out on something, is it's usually because I'm doing a big project, and it takes a long time to complete it, and it just never seems to end. And at the end, you go, I'm never doing one of these again, right? Have you ever heard me say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, 6 months goes by, and you get back into it again. So maybe give yourself a little break. Yeah. Or the other thing is maybe try to change the kind of woodworking you're doing. I mean, if you're into building furniture or you're into building boxes, you know what? Pick up a mini lathe. I mean, they're not that terribly expensive, and maybe you start turning, and you find a new passion or new fire somewhere else in the woodworking field. But it's, you know, it gets you away from what you've been doing, but it, you know, yet you're still being creative. It's a creative outlet. So anyway, we all go through that. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think, you know, one thing you can do too is just try to find inspiration, whether that be positive or negative. So, you know, visit a museum, visit a juried show, you know, and just look for inspiration, whether it be, gosh, I'd like to make that, or, well, I could do that better. Just try to find something to motivate you to get in the shop and do things. So, but yeah, it's hard to go home at night and do this too.
Oh, this is a good question here.
Uh-oh.
Good one. So this is from J.C. Hershey, and it says, am I making a huge mistake using ratchet straps for a 40-inch tabletop glue-up? I'm going to go with yes on that one, but I'm going to say that right off the bat, before you put a glue on that. My clamps max at 36 and don't currently have the budget for a bunch of Bessies. That's fine.
Okay.
It's 8 planks of varying widths. Would have a better luck gluing 4 pairs and then additional step of gluing the 4 into 8. Exactly. You've already answered your question. Yeah. So you got 8 planks, glue 4 together using their 36-inch clamps, right?
Right.
And you want to do this anyway. I would actually do 2 at a time. And I don't know what your material has been surfaced to, if you have a planer or it's all 3/4 inch stock. But one thing about gluing together 2 boards versus 4 boards, is if you're gluing it together, you only work in one seam. If you know what I'm saying, you start at one end. If you're having to kind of work down that seam, you can get a better glue joint with 2 as opposed to 4 or 3. So start with 2, then add another one, then add another one until you max out your clamps, and then at the end, you steal some clamps.
You wait till your neighbor leaves.
Neighbor leaves.
No.
Cheap clamps, pipe clamps. I mean, pipe is cheap. 3/4 inch pipe, 1/2 inch pipe's cheap. Those pipe clamp heads are very inexpensive, and I mean,
and even a lot of these, like our quick grip clamps, you could drill a hole in the end and bolt 2 together, end for end.
Yeah.
And make a big clamp.
Yeah. So I don't know what kind of clamps you have, JC, but I started with pipe clamps, and I made sure both ends were threaded, and I have pipe couplers, and I screw my pipes together. I've had stuff where I've screwed 3 pieces of pipe together, and it's like, hey, you know what? You got every length you need, but.
So here's, what are these, about 18 inches?
Or 24, yeah.
So all you'd have to do, now these already have a hole in them, all you'd have to do is take the heads off, put a bolt in there, and you've doubled your clamp length. So there might be something with the clamps that you have where you can basically turn them into a lot longer clamp.
Yeah. Another thing, and I don't know if this is going to come off, how this is going to come off, basically an explanation on here without demonstrating this, but if you've got a flat surface, like a workbench that's a little bit wider, say you're going 40-inch wide glue up, maybe you've got a little wider surface that's, say, 48 or 50 inches wide, or maybe you do this on the floor, if you've got a floor where you can actually screw cleats down, lay your 2 pieces down, and fashion some wedges. So you actually have cleats that maybe are about, 3/4 of an inch away from on either side. So let's draw a picture here. So say we've got our tabletop, and you've got, so this is going to be your glue seam. You go ahead and you screw down a couple boards parallel to this, not how I've drawn it, but parallel here. And then basically what you're going to do to clamp this, so this is on, whatever it's on the floor or your workbench, is you come in here with some wedges, and you can kind of start to work those 2 pieces together. You may have to come in with wedges in the middle too. But this is just another way of doing this without even using clamps. You're just kind of using some materials that maybe you have laying around, or you can get a hold of. My main advice is to, your tabletop, I mean, maybe you need 4 sets of pipe clamp heads, but I think, start there, and I think those are something that I would definitely get into your budget now.
Well, and another thing on gluing this together is, before you even put glue on the joints, just put the raw wood in clamps and just see what it's going to do. I try that a lot, and sometimes you'll be amazed. It's kind of like a dry run. You're amazed sometimes how stupid your ideas are until you try it, and then you realize you need to try something else. So does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it sounds like JC's already looking to steal some clamps.
We have no clamps to spare.
Yeah, we got nothing, and I don't know what this guy was talking about. We don't have any clamps.
Sure would be nice if someone sent us some clamps.
Oh, this is a good question here. Jason Broadwell, wanting to purchase a planer, which has a better cut, a 3-knife portable planer or a 3-knife stationary planer? You want to go first on this?
If Kevin has used it, you're screwed either way.
So that's my mistake for letting him go first. I'll tell you, this is something where there are portable planers that do make nice cuts. Jason, it kind of depends on where you're going with your woodworking. And to invest in a floor model or a stationary model, if you have the finances or the funding for that, I would do it. I'd do it right now. And if I could have when I started out, I would have. Now most of them, if not all of them, maybe Jet has a model where they don't do the spiral head, and they give a really, really nice finish plane.
Yeah, you don't have to pay attention to grain direction. They're carbide, so they last a lot longer before you even have to turn them, let alone worry about sharpening them.
Yeah.
It's almost to the point now, I think a lot of manufacturers, make it hard to find a 3-knife cutter head in a stationary machine. They want to sell you the helical head.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think it's going to be anymore. It's going to be harder to find a lot of these machines without a helical head. I think so many people are going for that with the stationary machines. Now, you know, I started with a Delta lunchbox planer, and you know what? It was the greatest thing I'd ever bought. You know, because I didn't have a planer. So I mean, you know, it's where have you been, where you're going. I mean, what have you been doing since then? It's up to that point, I guess. You can get a good cut on a stationary planer. I mean, you know, if you're not machining a lot of material, I mean, if you're not you're building a few pieces of furniture a year, I don't see the purpose of having that big machine. But if you're doing a few pieces, I mean, you can get by with that. You know, we buy material in the rough, so we buy it when it's not been surfaced. Generally, if it's been skip planed, maybe, but if we're buying 4/4 stock, it comes in at 1 inch thick, usually from our supplier, or 8/4 comes in at 2, or sometimes 2 1/8.
if you get lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we're trying to go from 2 1/8 to 1.5 inches, you know, and you're not equipped with a bandsaw to resaw with, then you're going to want a planer that can handle that. And your portable planers, well, first of all, I guess benchtop, and they're not really portable anymore. They never were, but
They're not light.
they're not light. But I think it just depends on the volume of material you're trying to handle. So,
Basically, the lunchbox planer works fine. It just doesn't remove as much material as quickly.
yeah,
The floor standing machine you can run all day long.
yeah, yeah. Pam Maylam, I hope I didn't mess that up. Commented.
You did.
She likes the DeWalt 735, and that's a good planer. We have a Delta that we use occasionally too. So it's just kind of comes down to the amount of volume you're needing to plane. I guess is that question.
Comment from Rose Boyle.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a comment from Rose Boyle.
What was that comment?
This comment says, "So when do you plan on getting our trim done? There are lots of folks watching." Yeah, pretty much busted.
I thought your house looked fine.
I didn't see that comment.
Do you want me to delete that one, Kevin?
Yeah. We don't respond well to hostility in this forum. Okay. Yep.
You aren't going to be home anyway. What's the difference?
Yep.
Kevin, there's a good question here from Ken Tyler. He says, when doing a glue up, do you shoot for dead straight, or do you concave the middle of your board slightly so the ends meet first?
We're gonna both answer this, but you go first.
Yes. It depends. Sometimes when you're trying to glue two boards together, you're just hoping to get two edges that touch in one or two places. So a lot of times on longer stuff, I'll actually have a little bit of a gap in the middle, and then you don't actually need as many clamps to pull it together. On shorter stuff, I don't worry about it as much. But again, it depends on how nasty that glue up is, and if what you're working on is not cooperating. So now, what's your scientific explanation?
My scientific explanation is, I mean, I'm looking for, and this, I'm going to say this, we have, and I have one at home, we have an 8-inch joiner that's got a long bed. So that provides us the opportunity to get, longer stuff straight and flat. So, if I'm doing a tabletop that, say is 7 feet long or 8 feet long, that becomes a little bit more of a chore, and I will kind of just say you're just looking to get it close. Glue's a magnificent thing today, and you know what? If you do have some gaps and you're trying to pull it together, pipe clamps do a great job. And you know what? You let that glue set overnight, and you're going to be fine. I mean, we're talking gaps. I'm not talking 1/8 of an inch here. We're talking less than a 1/16. Were the days when I bought lumber and I ripped it as straight as I could, and that was the face I was using the glue to. So, you're just trying to get it as close as you can. If you don't have an 8-inch joiner with an extended bed, there are other methods, by using hand tools as well. But
Well, do we want to talk about spring joints at all, or we could save that for another time too?
we'll see. That's some exciting stuff. There's a sharpening question. Do you want to handle that one?
No.
Okay.
What is it?
Okay, well, this is a great question. This is from John Pendleton. What is a good process for sharpening chisels? And this is going to vary by user. So, John and I differ considerably in this department.
In that I like sharp tools.
It's not that funny. Really not.
And you know how I get dull tools? Is when I leave for a day or two and I come back and they're not sharp anymore. I don't know what happens.
Shouldn't go on vacation. Good process. I use a couple processes, but the work sharp, plug a tool, it works very well. And I'll say this, if you're dealing with chisels that don't have a really hard steel, and I'm going to talk about some steel that's proprietary, like PMV 111 by Lee Valley.
I think it's PMV 11.
PMV 11.
We add a 1. I don't know why.
I don't know why we do that. PMV 11. Are you sure that's it? It's whatever. It's got to be close to that.
It's
It's
in that
really hard steel, and to do that on the work sharp, you will go through a lot of discs. If you're talking about a hand plane, where it's one of the like an old Stanley, model where I actually upgraded a blade in this, but a lot of the steel that these planes come with, that's very soft and that work sharp. In just a few seconds, you can go through a couple grits and have a really sharp plane or chisel. It's a great little tool.
So does A2 chew that up?
No,
on the work
actually A2 does pretty well.
Okay. Because he's in his system, he gets like a wild look in his eye when he has to start sharpening PMV 11. But he'll sharpen A2 all day long. A2, which is
here's actually what I
so.
do when I have to sharpen those particular tools. I make a lot of noise and I rumph around, and someone then wanders over here and goes, "Give me that." And then he goes over there to his Tormac, which it takes it to the far end of the system, and he uses a Tormac to kind of hollow grind his tools. I don't hollow grind. If I have to sharpen A2, then I use the Lee Valley system, and I use some DMT diamond stones that these work awesome. And I basically I have 4 grits. You probably only need 3, but they just vary in mesh. And I forget what the coarseness is on these, but
That's 220.
220.
That's 325. That's 1200. That's 600.
So this can get you to a nearly polished edge with using that system. Or the work sharp is another great way of doing chisels and small plane irons. Obviously, you can't. Dave's tired of this conversation, so we're moving on, I guess. You got anything else to add, real quick?
What?
Okay.
Okay.
We're telling us we got to go.
Is it time to go?
Okay.
Wow.
So. Kirsten, I'm not burnout. I just didn't get the trim done. I have little kids, and little kids tear stuff up. So, I'm not going to put the base trim down until they get older and move out. Then that trim will stay nice.
You know what line works is I get paid to do that. That goes over real well.
Okay, so Dave's telling us we got to wrap up, but I got one question here from Sean Burnham. My girlfriend is wanting me to build a desk with galvanized piping for legs and a thick wood desktop. I'm a novice woodworker. Any tips? I'm thinking
Well, you can get the, what are the things that
Flanges.
the flanges that they screw into.
Yeah.
So you might be able to knock that out in a hurry.
Yep, I would. The top may be the challenge, and I'd kind of scroll back up. You know, you might want to look at what we were talking about earlier by gluing boards together without clamps. You know, with using the wedges sort of thing. If you don't even have clamps or don't have a lot of tools yet, so as long as you're getting lumber that's got fairly straight edges that you're buying from the mill or lumber yard or wherever you're getting it. If we didn't get to some of these questions, which I'm sure there's some on here that we've missed, and I appreciate everybody chiming in, most everybody. I didn't say that. That was Dave that said that. You know what? Some of these things on here we'll try to hit, think about and hit for next time. I know there's quite a few questions that kind of scroll through there that we didn't get to. And then one particular was the lock miter bit. And I hate to hold you off till next time, but I actually want to do some prep on that because I think that'd be a really cool thing to demonstrate. So if you can bear with me, we'll be back in a couple weeks, and I want to show that lock miter bit because I think that's something a lot of people, have talked about buying and curious about it, and we'll kind of go through that. So, that's a good question too. How much time we got?
What's the question?
Looking to upgrade.
Looking to upgrade what?
Bandsaw. General use opinions. General use.
What do they have?
I don't know. I'm going to answer this question real quick. This bandsaw over here is a 14-inch bandsaw. It has a riser block. It has upgrade. The upgrade you have you've got Carter guides. I added a Craig fence. It's the light came with it, but it's also got the tension release for Carter. This bandsaw can, unless you're getting into a lot of resaw stuff, you can swap out blades and go up to a 5/8 real easy with this, and it's a great bandsaw. So we can talk more about that next time.
Get some bandsaws in.
We need to get some bandsaws
We
here.
need to get some bandsaws.
So again, if this is something you guys enjoy, please subscribe, and we'll kind of dig through and get some more of these questions answered for you guys for next time. And anyway, we'll see you down the road.
Yeah, have a great weekend.
Thanks.